So being a parent, I feel like no one really tells you how it's going to go. And depending on what kind of child you have, it's going to be an interesting ride. And honestly, the older my son gets and the older I get, the more I realize that I know nothing and that other people probably know nothing also. And that the more that I think that they have it under control and that they're totally kicking ass and that they're being super successful, they probably are. They probably are. But they're doing it not knowing anything either. Welcome to Beyond the Black Belt. I am Megan Cotterill. I'm the founder and owner of 5 Elements Martial Arts in Calgary, Alberta, and I am the Team Canada president for the World Kickboxing and Karate Union. So this episode is being a parent. That's an interesting topic. I have a lot to say about this. Some of it funny, some of it challenging, just like every other parent in the world. As much as we'd like to think that we can be perfect and the fantasy of being a parent is very different than the reality, I'm excited to share my journey. So my favorite thing in the world is being a mom. I love it the most. I love my son the most. I feel like the luckiest human alive that he picked me. He has been my greatest love, my greatest challenge. He has taught me more lessons about myself that I have ever gotten otherwise. So I'm really excited to share how he's made me feel and how awesome he is, because he's the coolest kid in the world, and how he continues to push me and make me better and make me feel more grounded in my life. Okay, so my story of a working mom. Lots of us are. Lots of us are working parents. I don't know if all of you have given birth and then decided to go kick and punch and spar and decide to breastfeed and lose weight and have stitches all at the same time, but that's sort of what I decided to do. So I was super high risk and I had fertility issues my whole life, and it's caused me a lot of pain and challenges, I'm sure, like other people in the world. And if you've experienced this, I'm so sorry. Any type of fertility issues are close to my heart, and I feel for all those people in the world that are struggling or want to have kids or have lost kids, as I have as well. And all they ever want to do is just be a parent and welcome someone else into the world. And they really feel like there is a void there in their life because it has been such a struggle for them. So I'm pretty grateful that he's my one and only, but that I got him and that he is just the absolute best in the whole world. So I went back to work a little too quickly after having him. I was high risk. I thought we were going to lose him. I had some very serious health concerns. So I was bedridden when I had him. So I have been an active child since I was 18 months old and have been in sports since I was 2. And this was the first time my whole life that I wasn't allowed to do anything. So I had to lay in bed, watch John and Kate +8, which was the worst. Sorry to anyone that likes TLC and all of those shows. I apologize to you. But yeah, I gained over 93 pounds. Which I never expected to ever do in my whole life. I was incredibly sick. I was incredibly scared, but I didn't care because I had a little nugget and I was super excited about being a mom and having this be part of my life. But I didn't get to do martial arts for a long time. I didn't get to work in my business except for at home. I could go to bed and I wasn't allowed to walk around my house, wasn't allowed to go to a movie, wasn't allowed to do anything. So I spent months and months and months and months and months growing a little baby and feeling like the worst. So as soon as I was allowed to go back to work, I sure did. But then as soon as I wasn't allowed to go back to work, I sure did. So the day I got out of the hospital, I was already back to work. I was in doing payroll. I brought him in. I was super sick. I felt like I was in a giant fog, but work was really important to me and I had taken more than enough time off. And of course, I thought I was super awesome and could do all the things, including working and breastfeeding and being a mom and healing and losing weight and having stitches and being a fighter again and achieving. So I thought I could do all of those things. I was back to work 3 weeks full time after he was born. And there was a lot of changes that had to be made in my studio because of that. So I remember having to teach and train and being so overweight that I couldn't even tie my black belt. None of my pants fit. I had a nursing bra on while I was doing punches and kicks and combinations. And I would go from pumping and breastfeeding him into coming in and teaching preschool kids how to break boards and how to stretch and how to have coordination and agility and how to kick and punch targets. And then I'd go straight from there into breastfeeding again and into taking care of my newborn baby, and then into payroll and into accounting and into handling my staff and cleaning my studio and renovating at the time too, which I thought, I could do that as well. And that would be a fantastic idea. But it was an experience. I ended up with severe postpartum depression, and nobody really talks about that, especially when you're going through it. So I remember bringing him to work with me and feeling like I just needed to get out of the house and to work. So I was really glad that I had that. But he'd be laying on the mat on the baby Einstein, and I'd be punching and kicking targets and bawling my eyes out and screaming and being a puddle on the floor because I didn't know how to feel like myself again. I didn't know how to go back to myself again. And of course, I was happy to be a mom, but I didn't know why all this was so hard and why I was so overweight and why my body didn't work. I mean, I'd gone from kicking over my head to kicking people in the knees. And I had gone from being an awesome sparrer and this person that I was hoping to inspire other people by being, to someone that could barely move and someone that was sad. And I didn't want to translate that to anyone. And I didn't know how to be better or different. And I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't eating. And I felt like I couldn't go fast enough or hard enough or be enough to anything or anyone. And I felt so much guilt because you want to be a good mom and you want to be there to not miss any moments. I mean, you want to be there for them to try food for the first time or learn how to crawl for the first time or cut their first teeth. And literally I was juggling, my little guy behind my desk in a baby Einstein chair or his car seat because I was 7 hours a day on the mat and then was trying to balance out business and that and trying to find childcare and a nanny and teaching with baby barf all over my uniform and running to tournaments. It was a lot. It was a lot. And then my son also had some interesting challenges too. So he wouldn't make eye contact. He hated being cuddled. And I felt really guilty that I was working because I thought it was my fault and I couldn't connect to my baby, and that somehow I had created this distance between him and I, and that I felt like I had no choice but to go to work and carry my business because I was the only one to do that. But I also didn't know how to be a good enough mom to him and give him all of the affection and attention and special little details that he deserved as his baby. And so I was constantly feeling guilty one way or the other between the shame of not being a stay-at-home mom and missing everything to not being a good enough business owner because I could only keep up with what I could keep up with. But that led to, by the time he was a year old, losing 93 pounds in a year, and competing just before his first birthday at 117 pounds at 5'10". So being a mom and trying to balance everything caused me to be incredibly unhealthy and incredibly extreme and incredibly hard on myself and incredibly self-punishing. But I was sure that I could do it all. I won a bronze medal at World Championships that year, and I made it home just in time to watch him take his first step. I'm sure we've all felt the struggle of trying to balance everything and how that is total bogus that we can actually do that all the time. I balance nothing. I think I do. I tell myself tons of stories that I balance, but I don't. I burn out. That's closer to what I do than anything else. I'm often feeling like I have to do 10,000 things in the car. Like I think I listen to more books and eat more snacks, lunches, breakfast, dinners in my car and drink more coffee than I do anywhere else in the world. My car seems to be like the one place I can sit down. Sometimes the one place that people don't ask me 10,000 questions at the same time. But yeah, it's burnout. It's not balance. And so I often am fighting between the shame and the guilt of giving up time with my son to pursue my career and to work and to have a social life with my friends, which completely helps in mental health. And I think everybody should make time to see their friends and their family and their community and not just think that everything that you do 200% of the time has to be about your child. Ooh, I might get in trouble for saying that, but that's okay. I think kids are awesome as long as they feel like they're of value. So in my struggle to try to manage both being a parent and then the other side of my life and being Megan and not just being a mom, like I love being an individual. I think it's awesome being an individual. I don't just want to be someone's mom. I want to be someone that runs a business. I want to be someone that's interesting. I want to be someone that's funny. I want to be someone that's like awesome to spend time with. And I think that I'm really proud of not seeming like I'm just a mom. So, plus I kind of want to be a cool mom. I don't know if I am or not, but that is kind of my goal, to be a cool mom. So the balance isn't real. Don't beat yourself up. Work on the burnout, and our kids are going to be okay. If you're liking this podcast, feel free to comment, share, or like. So being a parent, I feel like no one really tells you how it's going to go. And depending on what kind of child you have, it's going to be an interesting ride. And honestly, the older my son gets and the older I get, the more I realize that I know nothing and that other people probably know nothing also. And that the more that I think that they have it under control and that they're totally kicking ass and that they're being super successful, they probably are. They probably are. But they're doing it not knowing anything either. And probably being scared and probably having guilt and probably feeling exhausted all at the same time, because it's hard to grow other humans and keep them alive. I find that it is, especially, and to keep up with everything, especially with advice coming from all directions and not knowing what to believe and what not to, and then just hoping that whatever advice you decide to take isn't going to hurt your kid. I worry about that all the time. I worry about the fact that I might damage my son forever because of something I've done, or because I don't spend enough time with him, or because I'm not volunteering at his school all the time, or volunteering at all of his sporting events, or always being his coach, or always being there for bedtime. The amount of bedtimes I've missed is unbelievable. I hope it doesn't scar him. I hope he doesn't start a podcast where he tells people that my mom didn't tuck me in every night and he's very sad. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But what I've kind of learned is I've got to grow up with him. And I wonder if that's kind of what kids teach you, is how to grow up too, and how to let the fantasy of what you think being a parent is, like letting that go completely and just realizing that it's like starting from the bottom and working your way up. And the more I've learned to be realistic about who I am and what my family dynamic looks like, I think it's given him more permission to not have to worry about being perfect all the time and keeping things so close to his heart. He's not an extrovert the way that I am. And I think I'm very colorful and pretty fiery and have a lot of energy, and I bounce around a lot, and kitchen dance parties are my favorite. And he's a little kid that really enjoys his self-time and really enjoys structure and really enjoys being methodical and loves systems. And I have no idea what that even means. Like, he does statistics for fun and does fantasy sports teams for fun. And I'm like, is that math at 7:30 in the morning because you're happy? Like, this sounds ridiculous. And my head wants to pop off whenever I hear that that's some of the things he's doing for fun. But it's been really cool because he's grounded me and he's shown me other ways to do things and other ways to see the world. And it's forced me to pay attention to how he reads energy. So what I learned from trying to be perfect and for trying to do it all and trying to keep everything kind of locked down is that kids know when you're faking, and kids take it personally when you're faking. So every time that I was trying to pretend I was okay and I wasn't, I think that hurt him. And I think it taught him that the way that you human is to always pretend to be okay and always pretend to have things organized and nothing's ever bad and you never have a bad day and you're never sad and you're never angry, until I realized that I was teaching him not to have any feelings. So I started changing how I talk to him. And so when I have a bad day and I cry, I'll cry in front of him. And then I'll explain to him, hey, like, mommy's had a really sad day. You make me happy and you don't make me sad. But I think I need to cry because I don't know how else to get out my feelings and feel better. And I will deal with it and I will talk about it, but I'm just having a really, really, really sad day. And he's like, oh, okay, well, what do you need? Do you need some time by yourself? Do you want to watch a movie? Do you need a blanket? Do you need a treat? Do you need some gummy bears? And I'm like, maybe. But now he's able to tell me when he has a sad day or a bad day. He doesn't just go to his room. He doesn't just pretend that, you know, school was fine that day or he didn't have a conflict with a friend. Now he's like, Mom, today sucked. This happened in school and I felt really embarrassed here and this friend hurt my feelings. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you're sharing this with me. This is awesome. Like, we can talk about it. We can figure out, you know, what your next steps are. And I also learned the more that I tell him when I'm angry, sad, happy, excited, frustrated, overwhelmed, the more that we can relate to each other better. So now that he's able to share those things with me because I'm able to share those things with him, I've been able to say to him, I'm really sorry that happened to you today. Because that's what I wished someone would have said to me. And he now will say, Mom, I'm really sorry you had a bad day. And I'm really sorry that your feelings were hurt. And I'm really sorry that that didn't go your way. And we're not fixing each other anymore. And I realized that when it comes to feelings with parents or any type of relationships, sometimes you just don't want someone to fix something for you or give you unsolicited advice or tell you all the things that you did wrong or all the things that you should be doing next time. I actually super hate that. I don't want people, when I'm sharing something super vulnerable and I've had a really hard day, to jump in and want to tell me how I should have fixed everything and been better. Sometimes the best thing that I want to hear is, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And it makes you feel seen and heard. And I think that's all I've ever wanted since I was a little girl. And I think that that's sometimes all people want to hear. And I think for him, he's smart enough where he can problem solve just fine. Like, he's super intelligent. I don't need to be fixing all his problems. I don't need to be helicoptering him constantly. He can say, yeah, Mom, I was sad, but I think I'm going to do this differently. Or I think I'm going to organize my homework better because I know I failed in this test and I feel bad. And so thanks for listening, Mom. Or, you know, if there's a death in the family, not pretending that we're not sad, not pretending that we're not angry or frustrated, not pretending that we don't miss them. Hey, I miss this person today. Yeah, me too. What do you want to do? I want to look at their picture. Okay. I want to hear their voice on a message. Okay. And then I'm like, how do you feel? Okay, I feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit sad, but at least I know how to deal with it more in the future and not turn that into something like depression or anxiety. So he's taught me so much about my feelings and so much about just being so grounded and down to earth and actually speaking like you're in kindergarten to each other. Why can't we tell each other, hey, I want to play, or hey, I miss you, or that made me angry, or that hurt my feelings? He's taught me how to communicate so much better and so much more authentically. I mean, as much as that word I think sometimes is overused, it just helps you to share who you really are and not what you think you should be. My wishes for my kids. Oof. Well, I have selfish ones, and I think I have unselfish ones. So I think my selfish ones are that he is proud of me. I really want him to be proud of the person that I've grown to be. And I want him to be proud of watching me do things when I wanted to quit and when they were really hard and when I didn't think I could do them. I want him to be proud of me for dealing with all my negative feelings and working through them and being as healthy as I possibly can, as much as I can. I want him to see that everything that I work so hard for in my life is to better me and to better him. And that the better I feel about myself, the better of a mom I can be. And the more that I don't forget who I am as Megan and not his mom helps me to be a better mom, helps me to be happier and more confident. And I don't put so much pressure on him because I don't feel like he's the one that needs to make me happy. I'm the one that needs to make me happy, and we get to come together, and he's the one that gets to make him happy. And all he needs is support and love and kindness and to be seen and heard and just have someone that he can rely on his whole life to make sure that he has that parachute. And what I wish for him is that he finds his favorite things and that he finds things that make him feel like he's the coolest human on the planet, and that he is smart and that he is brave and that he is strong and he is of value and that he has purpose. I really want him to feel like he has purpose and that he's special. And I wish for him to feel like he's always supported and that he's never alone and that he's never lonely. And I'm sure he's going to feel like that. But I want him to feel like he's got a team with me in his life and that he never has to feel like he has to have it all figured out. And I think selfishly, that's what I want for myself too. And maybe the more that we can work on it together and talk about it together, the more realistic it might end up being. So thank you for tuning in to the Beyond the Black Belts podcast. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, or share. See you next time.